Good evening and welcome to our first agenda briefing for 2025. May I take the opportunity to wish you all the very best for the year ahead. Opening up tonight's meeting at 6 p.m. And on behalf of the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners on the land which we meet today, and I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past and present. Please note this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on our Council's website in accordance with the City's public participation in Council meeting policy, which can be viewed on Council's website. All reasonable care is taken to maintain privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery tonight, which we have just a staff member, presence may be recorded. Remaining in the public gallery, it is assumed consent is given if your image is broadcast. The recommendations contained in this agenda are officers' recommendations only and should not be acted upon until Council has resolved to adopt those recommendations. Resolutions of Council should be confirmed by perusing the minutes of the Council meeting at which these recommendations were considered, and members of the public should also note that they act at their own risk if they enact any resolution prior to receiving official written notification of Council's decision. The purpose of tonight's agenda briefing session is for councillors to ask questions and to obtain additional information in respect to the items presented on the ordinary council meeting agenda. Questions asked by councillors are to be answered by the CEO, or they may be delegated to a person nominated by the CEO and or by the person presiding. No decisions are made at agenda briefing sessions, no statements are to be made by councillors, and no debate is to be conducted on items. In our attendance this evening, I welcome the Deputy Mayor. Good evening to you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Bodica, good evening. All the best for 2015 or 2025 even for you. Lovely. Let's go back a decade. Councillor Winner, looking very bright tonight. All the best for a bright year. Councillor Johnson, good evening to you. Hope the year's quite snappy, a bit like your dress sense at the moment. Councillor O'Donnell, welcome. Greetings for a good year. All the very best of luck to you, Mr. CEO. To you and your staff, all the very best of luck in 2025. Joining us tonight alongside the CEO, Andrew Brighton, is Director of Advocacy and Strategy, Mia Hicks. Director of Engineering, Louis Camporelli. Good evening, Mia and Louis. Good evening to our Director of Corporate Commercial, Cass Yeager, who's here tonight. Good evening to you, Cass, alongside Xandra Kernock, who is our Executive Manager of Finance. Sandra, good evening. As well as our Manager of Development and Growth, Paul Lees, is with us tonight. Jamie Boys is conducting our governance. Matthew Pearson is doing our IT cyber security. And we welcome Michael Slater as our Systems Administrator tonight with the headset on in the corner. Looks like he's playing video games. He's actually tuned into our meeting. 4.2, our apologies tonight. We have one from Councillor Brownlee. We received that via text at 4:23 to me. He has a mild case of heat stroke. Apologies from members of staff, our Executive Manager of Governance and Risk Services, Francis Liston, who is on leave. We have two councillors who have a leave of absence that's been previously approved. They are Councillor Turner and Councillor Viskovich. Councillors, I've only been made aware of one item of interest tonight. Is there any other items in which there should be interest declared? No, that impartiality. Alongside the CEOs. Sorry if that was from councillors. Alongside the CEO tonight, who has an interest, I have an interest in item 15.25, the 2025 Red Dust Revival sponsorship. That is an impartiality interest, as I have volunteered with variety of events across the course of the last 12 months. The CEO has declared a financial interest in item 14.11, the CEO KPI review, because the item is in relation to his employment. We'll start off with the CEO in regards to our reports of committees. Mr. CEO, 14.11 is the CEO KPI review, the minutes from the committee meeting on the 9th of January.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Noting I do have a financial interest in this. However, as an update, this is part of the annual review process. It is just one of the status report updates in there, and it's provided for information of Council.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Any questions of that? Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just under quarterly review, the corporate business plan does not reflect all of the city's major projects, due largely to strategic community plan does not correlate with the direction of council or the needs of the community. Has this been rectified, or that's still ongoing?
Mr. CEO.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. It's part of the process. We're undertaking a major review of the community strategic plan this year. That kicks off in a couple of weeks' time, and subsequent to that, the corporate business plan will also be amended.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? No. 14.1.2, the Local Government Act reform, consultation on CEO KPIs and online register. Mr. CEO.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, this report is only focused on one aspect of the Local Government Act reform, and that is in relation to CEO KPIs and the online registers. This is part of the ongoing reform of the Local Government Act by the Department. At this stage, the recommendation that is for consideration by Council is that we don't make a submission into it. Most of the issues are already covered through our current reporting. However, there will be some changes as we move forward. But happy to take any questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Any questions on 14.1.2? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through to the CEO. Are you aware of any other comments being made or positions being taken by other councils to consider a position regarding KPIs?
Yeah, thank you. Through the Mayor. I am aware that there are a number of councils who are likely to make submissions in relation to the reporting requirements of the CEO KPIs, particularly around the focus that it would be the only level of government where CEOs or Director Generals have KPIs publicly scrutinised, put on the media and everything else. So I believe some other councils are opposing that component of it, or alternatively supporting it but making it compulsory for state government, DGs and everyone else to be reported against as well. So happy to provide some copies of the other draft submissions to Council should they wish to consider before next week.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. I think that if you've got any of that information to share with councillors, go ahead. Any other questions? No. Item 15, reports of officers. Zandra, who is our Executive Manager of Finance, to deliver two items for us tonight. The Statement of Financial Activity, which is 15.1.1 first of all. Thanks, Zandra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So item 15.1.1 is the Statement of Financial Activity for the month of November and the year to date, November 2024. So within the table, it advises of the permanent and timing variances, which will be reviewed as part of the mid-year budget review, which is likely to come to Council for the February OCM. There isn't anything other than what's already noted there.
Thank you, Zandra. Any questions, councillors? No questions on 15.1.1. 15.1.2, accounts payable.
So 15.1.2, accounts payable for the month of December 2024. So this totalled about 10.8 million. Usually our accounts payable is around 9 million. The increase was due to suppliers submitting invoices pre-Christmas, probably due to their own cash flow. And there was an increase in roadworks and works at the airport.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors, on the accounts payable? No. Thank you, Zandra. 15.2.1, Home Business Recovery and Fitness Centre under Development and Community, 14A Salisbury Road, South Kalgoorlie. Mr. CEO, Paul Lees, thank you. Our Manager of Development and Growth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors through the Mayor. 15.2.1 Home Business Recovery and Fitness Centre. Council is asked to consider a request from Kayla Di Stefani, the joint owner of 14A Salisbury Road, South Kalgoorlie, to operate a fitness and recovery centre from an outbuilding at the rear of their property. The services offered to clients include an ice bath, sauna and one-on-weight recovery sessions. A maximum of 2 clients can attend any given session. The proposed conditions, which reflect the operational management plan provided with the application, limit the operation to 7 one-hour sessions by appointment within the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Friday, and on Saturdays 5 sessions between the hours of 8:30 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. The same clients can attend more than one session. 2 parking spaces are available for clients on site. A 30-minute gap is required for client changeover from one session to another. However, should a client wish to attend 2 concurrent sessions, the 30-minute gap is not required. The maximum number of vehicle movements per day, 7 sessions with 2 attendees with separate vehicles, would be 28 vehicle movements, which is acceptable within the residential environment and the local street network. The applicant intends to install noise attenuation sheeting within the shed structure and manage noise levels so as not to cause a nuisance effect on neighbours. The operational management plan includes measures for responsible management to the effects of the activity. Ultimately, the impact of noise is managed by the environmental noise regulations, which assign acceptable levels of noise for the proposed hours of operation. With the conditions as proposed, it is considered that the activity can operate within the requirements of the relevant legislation. It is recommended that Council approve the application with conditions as proposed by the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Lees. Any questions, councillors? Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under the description of the site, it says the site has vehicle access from Salisbury Road with parking in the front yard of the property for 4 vehicles. I drove down there today. I struggle to see how you can fit 4 cars in there, especially you can even look at the photo. The driveway is there and fenced. You could get 2 possibly in that driveway. On the right of the driveway is a tiny little blue metal section. And I hazard to work out how they're going to keep getting people in. If one car goes into the blue metal, another car comes in the driveway, then that customer then has to go out, move their car to let the other person out and in. I can only see 3. Is the fourth one located at the rear? My question for that is because in the report it says the front yard, and I just cannot see how you can get 4 vehicles in there at all.
Thank you, councillor. Mr. Lees.
Councillor, through the Mayor, the assessing officer, I think, probably has included the garage. The key point, which probably should have been made more evident in the report, is that for a home business, you actually only need 1 car park. However, if they're having people arrive in 2 cars, they will need 2 car parks. So we will ensure that whatever happens in that front yard, that there is parking for 2 car parks, and that those vehicles, remembering they have to be moved after the session, and there's a half-hour slot before the new one. So there's no changeover as such in the front yard. It's simply needing the capacity for 1 or 2 vehicles to park there.
Thank you, Mr. Lees. Councillors, any other questions? One from me, Mr. Lees. In regards to inspections on pools, generally are obviously conducted quite regularly, or there's requirements around pools. Is there anything under ice baths? We're obviously seeing a lot more of these pop up throughout our city.
I can take that on notice. It's if it's used as part of a health facility, I expect the answer is that it must be inspected as with any other health facility, but I'll come back to you with that.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? No. Thank you, Mr. Lees. 1522, don't go anywhere. We've got the proposed amendment to the local planning scheme number 2, lot 4565 Broadwood Street in Broadwood.
Okay, through the Mayor. Council was asked to consider an application for the adoption or to initiate proposed scheme amendment to local planning scheme number 2 by adding workforce accommodation as a discretionary use, which would be a D use, over lot 4565 Broadwood Street, Broadwood. The proposed scheme amendment, if initiated by Council and approved by the Minister for Planning, would open the door for consideration of an application for workforce accommodation that was comprehensively prepared prior to the gazettal of local planning scheme number 2 in October. That in fact was 2023. The report before you outlines the process required by the legislation for a scheme amendment, and more importantly provides a sound planning rationale as to why this proposed scheme amendment should not be supported, including the following. The proposal undermines the objectives of the mixed-use zone under LPS2, which is to allow for the development of a mix of varied but compatible uses, as the amendments is to facilitate workforce accommodation only over the entire site. There is sufficient zoned land across the Kalgoorlie-Boulder district that enables workforce accommodation under LPS2. The zoning of the area was recently changed to mixed use with the introduction of LPS2, and an amendment of this nature is not appropriate so soon after the scheme review, new scheme gazettal and consequent zone change. There is a lack of particular site-specific circumstances that are unique, and the proposal is not of a special or urgent nature, which substantiates the adoption of the amendment. The proposal is inconsistent with the City's local planning policy, workforce accommodation policy, as it does not demonstrate that there is a need for workforce accommodation at Lot 4565 in the context of the provisions of the policy. The proposal is inconsistent with the orderly and proper planning of the area. The officer's recommendation is therefore that Council does not adopt, in brackets initiate, an amendment to the City of Kalgoorlie local planning scheme as requested, noting that there is no appeal process relating to such a decision.
Thank you, Mr. Lees. Councillors, any questions? No questions. Thank you. 15.2.3 road naming, Lot 500, Anzac Drive, Yulkari.
Through the Mayor. Council is asked to endorse a road naming theme and a list of preferred road names for streets relating to an approved subdivision at Lot 500 Anzac Drive, Yulkari. The new industrial estate is under development, and Development WA has asked for the City's comments on proposed road names for the new estate. Urbis, acting on behalf of Development WA, provided a proposed list of names within a theme of Aboriginal names for local flora and fauna. City officers consulted with Development WA, who advised that the state's preference is to use Aboriginal names. However, some risk has been identified in relation to the potential for mispronunciation and misspelling of the proposed names, which may be problematic in the identification of locations for emergency services. To provide Council with structure around decision-making, City officers have provided Council with alternate names based on themes, old mining leases, historically significant persons and war veterans. It is understood that Council prefers to consider names relating, in this instance, to old mining leases, and that Council will be voting on the preferred names for each of the 5 roads at the OCM for January for this year.
Thank you, Mr. Lees. Any questions on the road naming? Councillor O'Donnell.
We voted on the on what headings we wanted to name the streets. Did you just say that it's old mining leases was what everybody or the majority preferred?
Correct.
Okay then.
Any other further questions? No. Thank you. Any other further questions, councillors? No. Thank you, Mr. Lees. 15.2.4, the final adoption of the local planning policy for al fresco dining.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through yourself. This report seeks Council's consideration of the draft local planning policy for al fresco dining that was previously presented to Council on 28th of October 2024. As the consultation period has now finalised and the City has received no submissions from the consultation, Council is requested to adopt the policy through publication in accordance with Schedule 2, Part 2, Division 4 of the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulations 2015. The City's Engineering Department has recognised that structures relating to al fresco dining have the potential to cause damage to City infrastructure if not appropriately installed. In response to these concerns, it is recommended that clause 3.6 of the draft policy is amended to include the following. 3.6. Details of any permanent footings or tie-down structures must be included in the application and approved by the City's Engineering Department or Main Roads, Western Australia. The approval and permit holder is solely responsible for all and any associated costs with the removal, alteration, repair, re-establishment and reconstruction to the approval of the local government of the street carriageway, footpath or any part thereof arising from the use of the alfresco area. This section has been included in the attached draft policy. If adopted, the policy will provide guidance to applicants and city officers in assessing and approving structures relating to alfresco dining. It will ensure that the location of and structures associated with alfresco dining provide a safe, functional and enjoyable outdoor dining experience in Kalgoorlie-Boulder. It is recommended that Council adopt and that the City publishes the local planning policy alfresco dining, LPP 13, in accordance with the requirements of the regulations.
Thank you, Mr. Lees. Councillors' questions? Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through the Mayor. I note that section 3.11 of the draft policy states that the design of the alfresco dining areas shall provide access to a person with a disability. But can the officer please confirm that it will also ensure that the footpaths alongside of any alfresco dining area will also remain adequately wide enough for individuals who require mobility support equipment and or wheelchairs?
Thank you, Councillor Winner. Mr. Lees.
Through the Mayor, the policy requires the capacity for circulation space for all community, including those with accessibility issues or challenges, as well as the ability to negotiate street cleaners and other maintenance requirements between any barriers and any other road infrastructure. So that's been addressed and is important that it continues to be so. Obviously, issues associated with slope and access could be a problem, but we are particularly of the view that whilst an establishment might not be accessible because of a step, that the outdoor policy area should be accessible for all.
Thank you, Mr. Lees. Any other further questions for the policy? No, thank you. Item 15.25, 2025 Red Dust Revival sponsorship. Also noting I have an impartiality interest in this one. Thank you, Mr. Lees.
Through the Mayor. Council is asked to consider a sponsorship application for Variety WA for the 2025 Red Dust Revival, which is an iconic vintage car and motorcycle race which will take place at Lake Perkalilly between 29th of September 25 and 5th of October 25. The event is held every 3 years and is a reenactment of the vintage car and motorcycle racing that took place in the early 1900s on the lake, with associated fundraising activities. Event organisers are expecting a large increase in visitor numbers, with over 15,000 visitors expected for the week-long event, with interest from enthusiasts from all over Australia, New Zealand and Canada. The charitable purpose of the 2025 event is to raise funds to be donated to the Goldfields Children Charity, which provides support to local families with sick children. The application is for a single-year sponsorship for $100,000 cash to assist Variety WA in delivering the 2025 Red Dust Revival. However, the application fails to cover the in-kind portion that the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder provides for the event. The in-kind portion will cover the costs of grading the entry and egress to Lake Perkalilly, the event application, toilet block hire and event barricades, which are expected to be approximately $10,000. It is therefore recommended that Council approves the partnership with Variety WA for $100,000 cash and a $10,000 in-kind towards the 2025 Red Dust Revival event.
Thank you, Mr Lees. Councillor, questions? Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through the Mayor, given I'm a bit confused by the application's budget, particularly with the in-kind expenditure section, can the officer please confirm if the items listed under the in-kind expenditure section are in fact in-kind and free from build expenses, as it appears that the city would be providing funding towards a significant surplus, made even higher if my interpretation of the budget is correct?
Mr Lees.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just give me a moment to review the report, please.
No problem.
Also, more than happy for that to be taken on notice, Mr Mayor, if that's easier too.
Too easy.
Yes, I think that might be a good idea.
No worries, Mr. Lee.
I can flesh it out and come back with the accurate figures.
Thank you very much. Councillors, any other questions? No, thank you, Mr Lees. They are your items for tonight. Thank you. Item 1526, Community Bus Update. The CEO is the responsible officer. Mr CEO.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. The Council's being asked to consider an update on the need for a community bus, which was requested by the Council during its meeting in September last year. Based on the review and survey outcomes and ongoing monitoring, it's recommended that the purchase of a bus is not a current priority, and the report recommends ongoing advocacy instead, particularly in relation to the My Aged Care services, and then undertaking a further review as part of the major review of the age-friendly strategy in 2026.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Questions on the community bus? No. Thank you. Thank you, Mr CEO. Item 15.3, Advocacy and Strategy. The Roadwise Program 15.3.1, Director of Advocacy and Strategy, Mayor Hicks.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This item is in response to the Deputy Mayor's motion at the 16th of September Council meeting regarding re-engaging in WALGA's Roadwise program and other road safety initiatives. The Roadwise program is unfortunately currently oversubscribed. However, the city is requested to be added to their wait list, and we've now obtained access to a variety of their road safety products and services, which we're promoting throughout the community. Council is asked to receive the outcomes of this report and continue to advocate for additional support for Roadwise program and other road safety initiatives.
Thank you, Director. Any questions? Thank you, Director. Just the one item for you tonight. Director of Engineering, Louis Camporelli, with 15.4. And we've got 4 items under your directorate tonight. Director, the award of tender T002-2425, Usher Park, Goldfields, Oasis Fields, sports lighting upgrade being brought back to Council.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And through the Mayor, Council's asked to consider the submissions received for tender number T002-2425, Usher Park and Oasis Sports Field lighting upgrade. At the OCM of December 16, 2024, Council laid this item on the table until further information could be provided to assist councillors to understand the scoring and evaluation of tenders. This information was provided to councillors at the Concept Forum on the 6th of January 2025. Now that this has been complete, Council was asked to consider the submissions for the tender T002-2425 and upgrade and award the tender to tenderer A.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through the Mayor to the officer, while I'd like to thank the officer for the additional information provided on this item, can I please ask what the expected duration of the works would take to complete once commenced?
Director.
Thank you. I'll take that on notice and come back to you with the answer.
Thank you. No other further questions. 15.4.2, request for tender 019-2324, City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder Administration Building Air Conditioning Replacement. Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And through the Mayor, Council is asked to consider the submissions received for tender T019-2324, City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder Administration Building Air Conditioning Replacement. At the ordinary council meeting on the 22nd of July 24, Council made a decision to award this tender. Unfortunately, after awarding the tender, the preferred tenderer no longer was able to complete these works and a new tender was required to be called. This has now been completed and Council is being asked to award the tender to tenderer A.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, councillors? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Director. In this space, are we finding it more and more difficult to get tenderers, applicants to tender for such, I suppose, intricate projects within the city?
Director.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through the Mayor, we've found there's been a little bit of an uptake of recent, and I think that some improvement on how we write our scopes in that space may improve that further in 25.
Thank you. Any other further questions? No. 1543, a request for tender 004 2425, tree pruning and tree maintenance.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And through the Mayor, Council was asked to consider submission received for tender T004 2425, tree pruning and tree maintenance. The City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder sought to engage a qualified contractor with demonstrated expertise in pruning, maintenance and removal of street trees and public space vegetation within the municipality's developed areas and around Western Power infrastructure. The successful tender will possess relevant certifications and a proven track record in arboriculture and urban environments. This process has been carried out and Council was asked to award the tender T004 2425, tree pruning and tree maintenance, and award it to tenderer A.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, councillors? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. To the engineer. Basically on this one, there's been so much community, I suppose, commentary around the way that the trees have been pruned previously. And I note that the report also indicates that it has been taken into account that the pruning is to be done around other infrastructure like power lines, Western Power, etc. Is there provision as far as this so that these trees are pruned so that they're not pruned over the edge, like so that they're leaning to one way, so that we have a better looking streetscape moving forward?
Director.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And through the Mayor, the new tender for this year, starting now, has a provision for that. Previous tenders have just complied with the Department of Energy, where it's compliance pruning to keep them away from power lines. The new tender requires the contractor to prune aesthetically once every 3 years for the trees within the city.
Very technical. Councillor O'Donnell.
Just a quick one. I haven't seen a score so high for a tenderer before. It's only a couple of percent below 100. Is this a brand new tender, a new business doing these, or is this tender been doing it for the last couple of years?
Director.
Thank you. And through the Mayor, this tenderer has had previous tenders with the city.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. Any other further questions, councillors? Item 1544, odour report. Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And through the Mayor, Council was asked to consider the confidential report conducted by OPAM Consulting to ascertain the nature of the odour complaints that have been received by the city over the past 2 years and support recommendations that will assist in reducing the odour going forward. Ongoing odour complaints prompted an investigation into the source of the unpleasant smells, with the wind direction and odour intensity constantly fluctuating. An odour specialist was engaged by the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder in September of 2024, and a community consultation meeting was held on the Monday, the 21st of October 2024. Since then, the consultant has been active, working closely with residents, and was in Kalgoorlie from the 20th to the 25th of October 2024, and has just completed their report.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, councillors, as I deal with a big fly over here? Councillor Winner.
Hopefully that's not odour related, Mr Mayor. Just through the Mayor to the CEO, because I have been asked already, Mr. CEO, can you please explain why this report has been made confidential from the public? And is there capacity for elements of the report, if not all of it, to be released to the public given the significant interest around the matter?
Thank you,
Yeah.
Councillor. Mr. CEO.
Yeah, thank you. Through the Mayor. Reason the report has been made or the attachment has been made confidential is because there's a number of other businesses that have been identified in there, and we're still working through that. We have talked to the consultant about providing a slightly amended report to remove some of those identifying details which may be commercially sensitive, so we can have a report that can be released to the public.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you.
Just noting, Councillor O'Donnell, anything in the confidential report. So the report is still confidential? Sorry, I should have said that before. The attachment is confidential, so anything in the attachment is of a confidential nature. As if your question relates to that, potentially put it into writing to the CEO.
Okay.
Sorry, I meant to say that before Councillor Winner jumped on.
Yes, because possibly what I do ask could, yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor O'Donnell. Any other further questions? Deputy Mayor?
I'd also like to just ask, it mentions in the outcomes of the report within the report in the in the detailed summary here, that potentially, is it because of developments around the city as well that has also changed the nature and, I suppose, the more prevalence of the smell?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Director?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through the Mayor. Partially. So part of the problem is some development around the city which has pushed wind flows back into town and not pushed them across the top of the soup pit.
Thank you, Director. Any other further questions? No. Thank you, Director. That's you, done and dusted. There are no questions of which due notice has been given. There is one confidential item to be briefed on tonight, councillors, ahead of next week's meeting. It relates to 17.1, which is brokerage funding agreement. For that, we will pause our recording and councillors will have the opportunity to ask the appropriate questions to the appropriate director after being briefed on that matter. We will resume the broadcast as soon as that has taken place. good? Yes, okay, we're back. And with that, we close tonight's meeting. Just before I do, there are 2 leave of absence which we will have for next week's meeting. One from Councillor Bodica from the 7th of May to the 30th of May, Canada and Alaska, a business conference. Thank you, Councillor Bodica. And one from the Deputy Mayor on leave from the 12th of May to the 22nd of June for 2025. We'll include those in next week's. And we've also got one from Turner, which we will also include for next week as well. Thank you very much, Jay. On that note, I'll close tonight's agenda briefing. The official ordinary council meeting will be 7 o'clock next week at the Kalgoorlie Town Hall on the 20th of January, and tonight's meeting is closed. The agenda briefing at 6:46 p.m. Thank you.